yeah, so as I was talking to her, I realized that that could be a really good thing for us because many times we're practicing, and the idea is how are we practicing? How are we bringing this to life? We come to class. I know that it's also, we're a really tight community. I mean, I'm very, very, very happy to be able to say that we most of us know each other really well. And as she was sharing that, I thought it would be interesting for us to talk about it a little bit too, because as we come into more familiarity with one another, sometimes we sometimes could forget that that we lose our mindfulness sometimes when we're in familiarity with one another. It's just, and I don't mean that we lose it. It's just that we lose our self-awareness, and we might respond in ways that are not, kind or compassionate. We might react in ways that are not kind and compassionate. And this happens all the time. It's not, it's not just you, it's not anyone else. It happens to us. And this is why the practice is so important. And the idea is that if we can look back, and this is what I was talking to this lady about, it was if we can look back into how we were, for her it was 4 years ago, but how we were when we started the practice and how we are now, then we can see whether we're practicing or not. And, the practice is not just coming on Fridays and, sitting quietly for a while, but really, really turning towards our inner world and seeing what's happening with me, what's happening in this moment. And so in this environment, it just seems like, we can easily fall through the cracks, right? Really easily. Like I was saying, the more familiar with what we're with one another, the more we forget that we are actually practicing in this community, that this is a practicing community. And this is why we have the attitudinal foundations as our guidelines. And the guidelines are really important. So I wanted to remind us all these are ways of being. And when we're in the presence of one another, this is the way that we practice, because we are going to go out into the world and we are going to run into all the different personalities that we see here. And so it kind of prepares us in a way, but that doesn't mean that we are just going to, be however we are and not care about other people. So I just wanted to make that very clear, because we haven't talked about these attitudinal foundations in a while. And I think it's always good to remind ourselves, where are we with these ways of being? Because that's what it is, are ways of being, right? And so this is going to take us a little bit into self-acceptance, which doesn't mean that everybody else has to accept how we feel at the end of our reaction. Self-acceptance means that I acknowledge how I feel at the moment, really tuning into how I feel. And I might be having a terrible day, and I might be super reactive as I was sharing with this person I was talking to. But I'm able to pause, and I'm able to still be kind to myself and to others. And if I can be kind to myself, I'm not going to be kind to others. And kindness is really the key of this community. And so today we're going to practice a little bit of that. And I'd love to talk a little more about self-acceptance in a way that is not, this is just how I am. This is old school thinking when we didn't know about neuroscience. Neuroscience and neuroplasticity, right? When we didn't know about any of this, now we know that we're not stuck with how we are, that this practice in itself can help us rewire how we are. But just being aware every time we get triggered, every time we feel like saying something that is unkind, or, and this is our guide, this kindness, when we lose our kindness, because no matter what, no matter what, it's important to first tune into ourselves and be kind to ourselves before we say anything, before we take the extra step. So, all right, I'd like to invite you to get comfortable, to not too comfortable that you fall asleep, but comfortable enough. And then just eyes open or eyes closed. And let's check in with ourselves right now. What's happening in the body at this moment? Just notice your breathing. This is the indicator of how we're doing internally. Are we agitated? Are we at ease? There's no right or wrong. So here's a non-judgment component. We're just here, right with ourselves, tuning in. Acknowledging how we are at this moment. And there's nothing to change. So this is the important part in our practice, that we're observing where we're at without surprising, without changing. And this is how we're kind to ourselves. Just noticing this is what the moment is bringing right now. And there is a tenderness on this. There's a softening of the heart when we turn towards ourselves, inward. And if you notice the mind being really distracted, wandering around, telling stories, the question is, what is happening right now that the mind has to flee the moment? Coming into a rescue. What's under that? How's my breathing? And the body will always guide you. So noticing if there is tension or tightness anywhere. And if you notice a state here of being maybe a agitation or Maybe the heart can be beating fast sometimes. You can always resume to your breathing, allowing the breath to flow normally, but paying attention to the breath and then taking in again with the body, tension, tightness, agitation, numbness, anything that might be present here right now. Maybe I don't feel anything at all. Hmm. Yeah, what's happening here? How can I bring self acceptance to this moment? Maybe there's overwhelming emotions at this moment. Can I be okay with them? I don't need to leash out on anybody. I don't need to have anybody be at the end of my emotion, but maybe just tuning in, giving it that space myself, tenderly attending. And every time the mind is distracted, is checking back, coming back to the body, the breath, checking in again, tension, tightness, what's here, what's happening in this moment. And just seeing if you can welcome yourself at this moment exactly as you are. Just welcoming all of you, acknowledging where you're at. Bringing a sense of non-judgment. We're not chasing for the feeling good emotions or the feeling good sensations. We're also not pushing away anything. We're just objectively observing like a scientist in a lab without bias. And as you observe yourself in this way objectively, without attachment to any outcome, becoming aware if anything changes, the constant change. Always knowing that no matter how you feel, how we feel, it will change. We don't have to give in. We don't have to react. We don't have to lash out at anyone. It will change. So just giving ourselves a little bit of space right here, right at this moment. And if you're experiencing a pleasant sensation, a pleasant way of being, just knowing that this will also change. So at some point, we let go. Let go of our need to have things be a certain way. And whatever you might be experiencing right now, just knowing that you're not alone. We might not be physically holding hands, but we are connected. We're all here in this moment together. Cultivating deep awareness of ourselves, others, this moment. And it all starts with self-acceptance. So Jack Cornfield says that much of our spiritual life is self-acceptance. He says actually maybe all of it is self-acceptance. So let's just sit here for a moment with these words. Can I accept myself right now, exactly as I am? Can I hold myself with kindness and tender care in this moment? And may I be okay with whatever is happening right now within me? That's really all that matters within me. May I be okay with that? May I notice the tenderness without reacting, without pushing it away, without fixing anything, or trying so hard to make it go away. May I just hold my tenderness here? And as our words and actions reflect our inner world, may I notice my words so I can develop more self-awareness. May I notice my actions. May I treat myself with kindness and compassion. And may I invite myself to befriend all parts of me. Maya Luna writes a poem, All of You. And she says, you, yes, you, all of you, your chaos and your madness, your foolish nonsense, your fearless magic, you're welcome. You're welcome here. Your passion and your arrows, your red fever dreams, your resistance, your doubt, your power, wild and uncontained. You, yes, you. Your bottomless grief, your heartbreak bursting out at the seams, spilling out in messy floods of inconvenient feelings. You, yes, you. Your oceans of confusion, your terror running deep, your river of longing, your precious illusions. Even if it makes you look foolish, even if it makes you go mad, all of you is welcome here. Your brain tangled with neurons firing wild impulses from the dark forests of your conscious. You're welcome here. The twisted vines and purple fog of melancholy in your heart. Your bloody, messy, crazy love. Your fears, your desires, pushing and stretching to be expanded and expressed. The lies you tell yourself, your deepest regrets, the mess of never getting it exactly as you had planned. You, yes, you. Your awkward stumbles, your shaky knees, your hunger for some meaning. You're welcome here. Your flaming hatred and your tender broken faith, your need to control. You're welcome here. Your unattained innocence, your will to rise again, the pain you tried to hide. You're welcome here. I want every part of me touched and seen. I want to be as big as a universe and as tiny as an insect. I want every contradiction, every disproportionate feeling, every chaotic thought to be met right here. I want to write and howl and groan with the deep root of life. I want to be held with such a soft sweetness that this fragile ache finally opens and lets go. I want to be known as a holy animal, as consciousness, as infinite. I want to roll in the ground. I want to scream and kiss where my feet have been. I want to cry and need and feel right here. I want to explode and hold this ancient pulsating groan of ocean that lives in me right here. Meet me here, where the pain touches the canvas, where the past is dead and dangling, where the future is a vacant space. Right here, where this unfolding moment in the refuge of the heart. Right here. Come with us. Come with me. You're welcome here. So maybe just taking in a deeper than normal breath, if that's okay with you. And allowing those words to really just settle here deep in the depths of your mind. Coming from deep self-acceptance, knowing that all of it is welcome within yourself. That you are welcoming with open arms, all of you, everything, with kindness, with tenderness, with deep acceptance. And maybe just taking in another deep breath or stretching a little bit, allowing the eyes to open at your own pace. Whenever you're ready, you can keep them closed for a little longer if you like. So I wanted to share this poem because it speaks so loudly to me about all the parts of ourselves that we kind of suppress or reject, and how within ourselves there is always space for all of it. And this is our practice, this loving awareness that can hold it all. So there is, I need to read to you a little bit of just an article on the Harvard Health newsletter that I like to read sometimes. And guess what? It was talking about self-acceptance. And so it says that there's 3 ways to practice or to increase self-acceptance. Number 1, self-regulation, right? And now self-regulation means that we notice how we feel and we're able to reframe that. So every time we react in our practice, in mindfulness, every time we react, we're only reinforcing and pushing away how we feel. So if something bothers us and we react to it, we're not giving ourselves space. We're reacting because we don't want to feel this way. Something triggered and we have to push it away. It feels too uncomfortable. So the invitation is to be able to be with what we feel. I know that's a challenge. That's why we're here. And that's why the practice is so important, right? Because we can't do this without the practice. So that self-regulation and then self-awareness, of course. I would say that self-awareness comes first, to be aware of what's happening in the moment. And last year, we practiced for a long time pausing. So may the pause be what allows you to carry over moment to moment. May this pause allow you to really tune into yourself with kindness. And then they talk about self-transcendence, transcendence. And with self-transcendence, what they're saying is that we transcend everything that is external to us. So many times we feel like somebody says something, and it's triggering, and so it's their fault, and we kind of want to say something else to them. Or we might just be in a situation that is highly triggering, that, where we feel emotions that are just hard to be with. The immediate thing is to react because that pushes them away. So self-transcendence is speaking more about understanding that there's nothing outside that can ever make us feel any way. And that we have this kindness within. that we carry in. Now, that doesn't mean that because I'm practicing, I'm going to make it hard for others, right? That doesn't mean that, because there's always this underlying compassion and kindness that get transmitted with our words and our actions. But really, as I was talking to this person and I was mentioning at the beginning of our talk together, our time together, she was talking very much about her husband and how triggering he would be sometimes in her children. And of course, with her practice and understanding, she knows that it's not about them, right? She knows that in those small moments in which she just loses it, she didn't pause. And she's saying to herself, I don't welcome the way I feel right now. Therefore, you're going to make it better for me. She's putting a lot of responsibility on others. So that was what she actually came to. She said, I've been carrying this, grief almost, with my husband constantly triggering me. And she says, I was putting all this responsibility on him of not knowing how to be with myself, saying, you did this, you said this. So we pause, and we talked a little bit about that last week. We pause, and then we understand how we feel. We hold ourselves in this kindness so that we can set a clear boundary, so that we can speak from the heart, not from the head. We can speak from deep within, okay? So somebody on our group posted this lovely question last time about anger and about expressing or setting a boundary. So this is what we're talking about with all emotions, with everything that we feel. It's all within us that we're looking towards, because this is where we grow. So if you find yourself in the same place, reacting the same way, feeling the same way, not being able to be with your feelings as you did when you started practicing, then something needs to change. Something needs to shift. Because the practice should be speaking for itself. So, yeah, I think it's important for us to always have these sessions once in a while and remind ourselves of those ways of being. That's why they're the guidelines of this group. And if you haven't looked at them for a while, you can find them. They're on the chat. You can click on them. They're all there, and review them. And it also tells you these ways of being within yourself, somebody else, or in community. What does that mean when we're together? This is our practice. So I want to thank you so much for always being so kind, generous, tender, and for your patience. And your practice shows. It shows. Every time we don't give in to our impulse, whether it's by speech or action, the practice shows. That means we are practicing. So thank you. Thank you for practicing with me, for allowing me to learn from you. Yeah. So I like to just give a little bit of room to make